The evacuation sirens wailed through the crystalline corridors of Station Arcturus 7 as the Carvon fleet tore through the outer defenses. Commander Lyra Kane sprinted through the chaos, her boots hammering against the metal deck plates while panicked aliens fled in every direction. She had orders to reach the command center, but something made her hesitate at the intersection near the bio-containment wing. A sound, barely audible beneath the klaxons and explosions, a whimper. Lyra skidded to a halt, her hand instinctively moving to her plasma rifle. The bio-containment wing was supposed to be empty, evacuated hours ago. But that sound, it was unmistakably the cry of something young, something terrified. She made her decision in a heartbeat. The bio-containment doors had been blown open, smoke billowing from the twisted frame. Inside, the holding cells lay shattered. In the third cell, huddled behind an overturned medical pod, she found them. 5 Carvan cubs, their spotted pelts matted with dust and their amber eyes wide with terror. The species humanity had been fighting for 3 brutal years. The species whose adult warriors stood 9 feet tall and could tear through reinforced steel with their claws. These were children. The oldest stepped forward, placing himself between Lyra and the smaller cubs. His lips curled back, revealing needle-sharp teeth that would one day grow into deadly fangs. He couldn't have been more than the equivalent of a human 10-year-old. "Easy," Lyra said softly, lowering her weapon. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cub's growl faltered. Behind him, the smallest cub, barely more than a toddler, began to cry. Lyra's combat computer chirped urgently. The station would be overrun in 12 minutes. Anyone still aboard would be killed. The logical choice was clear: leave them. They were enemy combatants in training. In a few years, they might be the ones killing her comrades. She looked into the oldest cub's eyes and saw the same desperate protectiveness she'd seen in human children during the colony raids. The same fierce love that made someone small stand against something much bigger. "What's your name?" she asked. The cub's translator collar flickered. "Reiner," he rasped. "Reiner, I'm Commander Lyra Kane. We need to leave now." They said humans would kill us. The others left us here to die." Lyra's jaw tightened. She'd heard the reports. The Carvan military considered these cubs offspring of a rival clan, expendable. Political prisoners too young to understand the wars they'd been born into. The Carvan had abandoned them when the station came under attack. "I'm not leaving you," Lyra said firmly, "but you have to trust me." For a long moment, Reiner stared at her. Then slowly he nodded. The journey through the dying station was a nightmare. Lyra carried the 2 smallest cubs while Reiner herded the others. Explosions rocked the corridors. Debris rained down. Twice they had to hide as Carvan boarding parties swept past, and Lyra held her breath, praying the cubs would stay silent. They did. Even the youngest seemed to understand that their lives depended on it. When they reached the last functioning evacuation bay, Lyra's squadron stared in disbelief. "Commander, what the hell are those?" Lieutenant Chen demanded. "Survivors," Lyra said flatly. "Load them up. They're Carvan." They're children, Lieutenant. Now load them or I'll do it myself." Something in her voice made Chen step back. The cubs were secured in the transport, and 60 seconds later, Station Arcturus 7 exploded behind them in a ball of blue fire. The military tribunal lasted 3 days. Lyra stood accused of treason, of harboring enemy combatants, of jeopardizing human security. The cubs sat in a detention cell, Reiner's small frame pressed against the force field, watching her through the transparent barrier. On the 3rd day, Lyra finally spoke. "I've read the reports," she said, her voice carrying through the packed chamber. "I've seen the projections. Analysts say these cubs will grow into warriors, that they'll kill humans. Maybe they're right." She paused. "But I've also read our history. I know what humanity is capable of when we dehumanize our enemies, when we forget that the line between soldier and child should mean something." She looked directly at the tribunal judges. "We're fighting this war because the Carvan attacked our colonies, because they showed no mercy. If we become them, if we murder children because of what they might become, then what the hell are we fighting for?" The chamber fell silent. Admiral Zhao, the head judge, leaned forward. "And if you're wrong, if these cubs grow up and kill our people, then that's on me," Lyra said. "But at least I'll know I gave them a choice, that I showed them humanity can be more than what their elders taught them we are." The verdict came the next morning. Charges dismissed under the sapient protection protocols. The cubs were granted provisional asylum, with Lyra designated as their legal guardian until they reached maturity. The war continued for 2 more years. Lyra fought in 17 major engagements, always returning to the sanctuary station where the cubs were housed. She watched Reiner grow taller, watched his siblings learn human languages and customs. She saw the moment when understanding dawned in their eyes, when they realized that the enemy their clan had described as monsters had saved them. The turning point came during the Battle of Kronos Rift. Lyra's ship was crippled, adrift in enemy territory. The Carvan fleet closed in for the kill. Then impossibly, one of their destroyers broke formation. It transmitted a single message. Commander Kane, this is Captain Reiner of the clan Twilight. I've come to repay a debt. The now adult Carvan warrior had risen through the ranks of a reformist faction within his species, one that had been watching humanity's treatment of their cubs. His ship carved a path through the enemy fleet, buying time for Lyra's crew to escape. 6 months later, the war ended not with annihilation, but with a treaty. At the signing, Reiner stood beside Lyra, representing the new Carvan coalition. The cubs she'd saved had become ambassadors, living proof that even ancient enemies could choose a different path. As Reiner placed his clawed hand over his heart in the human gesture of respect, Lyra remembered that moment in the burning station, the choice that had seemed so simple, yet had changed everything. Thank you, Reiner said quietly, for showing us that strength is not just about who you can defeat. It's about who you choose to save. Lyra smiled. You would have done the same. Perhaps, Reiner admitted. But I learned it from you. In the darkness between stars where war had raged for so long, a new light began to grow, built not on treaties of convenience or temporary ceasefires, but on something far more powerful, the memory of a human who had looked at enemy children and seen only children worth saving, and that, more than any weapon, proved to be humanity's greatest strength.